Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here this morning, and it's delightful that Age UK London is able to partner with Carolyn and Emma on this, because staying safe is very important to what Age UK in general does and what Age UK London in particular is up to. So what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of exactly as Carolyn said, a little bit of a background as to who we are and what we do and why we're interested in this. And then just run through some of the things that Age UK across London are doing in order to keep older people safe. So the first thing to say is that Age UK is a very odd organisation. We are a federated organisation, so you've got the local Age UKs in each of the London boroughs. Carolyn, I know you're involved in Lambeth, and there's a gentleman here as well from Age UK Lambeth. So in all of the London boroughs there will be a local Age UK that will be delivering services to older people, and that could be anything from befriending or help at home or some of the other services I'm going to be talking about. You've then got the National Age UK. They will do all the national fundraising, the national information and advice line. If you saw the adverts earlier in the year with the ribbon floating around, that's what Age UK National do. And then Age UK London sits in the middle. So in London, anything that is larger than a London borough but smaller than national tends to come to us. We don't actually deliver services directly to older people, and we certainly don't line manage the local Age UKs. And if I said anything along those lines, I would be shot by the CEOs that are in charge of all that. Just to give you an idea of what we were doing quite a lot of work and various fingers in various pies, but one of the things that I wanted to do with Age UK London was give us a real mission. So this time last year we did some restructuring, and we decided that actually what we were going to do, what we wanted to make as our mission, was to make London age friendly. Now, for any of you that know about the W Health Organisation age friendly community guidelines, this is the WHO have come up with this framework of 8 domains, including housing, transport, social participation, employment, and a number of others as well. And the idea is that any community should be able to look at those 8 domains and say, right, well, we're going to do this, this, and this, and it's going to make us more age-friendly. And any community can sign up. In London, I think Lewisham and Southwark have signed up. I think Camden is on the way as well. And we were very pleased last year, in June of last year, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, signed London up to be an age-friendly community on the back of some lobbying that we did. So we're very pleased that he's taken that step to make London age-friendly, and that's something that, as an organisation, that's now our mission. How does this link into keeping older people safe in London? Well, keeping older people safe is a vital part of actually, the way we see it as it's the solid base. It's the foundation upon which later life in London and everywhere else can be built. So unless you can keep older people safe, they can't then go out and do all the things that they would really like to do. So whether that's golf or volunteering or whatever, they need to feel safe in order that they can live their lives to the full. So if you imagine that the plinth of safety, which is very much what we're talking about today, that's then the solid foundation that older people's lives in London can sit on. So that's why it's fantastic for Age UK London to be in partnership with this conference, because I think without keeping older people safe, they're not going to live their lives to the full. And looking at older people, there is so much that they have to offer, so much that they can do for themselves, for other people, and to give back to the community. So if we can keep them safe, all of that other stuff follows on from there. So that's why it's important that we're involved in this particular conference. What's happening for older people across London, and what are Age UK doing to meet that? Aha, there we go. So what we do. The first thing we talk about is information and advice, and that's why I think I would, I don't get brownie points for doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway, but because Stay Safe, www.staysafe.support, it's a resource. It's a vital resource. There's loads of stuff on there. If you're not using it for your organisation, please do. If you're on social media, tweet it and push it all around, because actually I know there's local Age UKs that use this resource. What will happen to a local Age UK is Mrs. Smith will phone up and she will want to know something. And what she wants to know, the reason why she calls us, is that our information and advice services across London are trusted because they're the brand. They are expert. My office is based in Tavistock Square in London, in the same building as the National Age UK, and there's a whole suite of people there who are responsible for the Age UK information and advice booklets and newsletters and resources, and they are well researched and they are up to date. So that means that if Mrs. Smith phones up asking something of a local Age UK, she knows that that information is up to date, it is trusted, and it can be relied on to help her in whatever she wants to do. Odd thing about that, though, is very often older people will phone up about one thing, but it's not about that, it's about something else. So they will phone up saying, well, can I have a leaflet on wills? It's fine, we can send that out, and that's not a problem. What we'll then find is that 2 or 3 weeks later, they phone up and say, oh, actually, I've got something wrong with my bathroom. Can you help, please? So what the big, one of the important functions that Age UK provides is we're a front door to many of the other things that older people need. So they'll come to us for one thing, but actually they get in there and we'll find out they need a welfare benefits check. They need all sorts of other support services. So the information and advice service for us is our front door. It's how people get to us and then find out all of the other fantastic stuff that we can do. Reducing social isolation, I was really stunned by Louise's presentation earlier on, because I think a lot of the stuff that she was talking about resonates so strongly with a lot of the stuff that local Age UKs and their workers will see. And it is around people who won't see anyone from one day to the next, sometimes not even 1 week to the next. And the vulnerability there just means that when the stories that Louisa was talking about there, it's an open door for scammers and all sorts of other rogue traders and whatever. What we try and do is actually make sure that people are in touch. Now, sometimes they don't want to be, and there is a distinction between being isolated and being lonely. You can be lonely but not be isolated. Some people like their own company. You can actually be lonely but still part of a big community. If you've got we see this with carers who are, they're in touch with lots of people. They're in touch with the person they're caring for, they're in touch with the social services, with the hospital, with the doctors, with blah, 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 blah. They're incredibly lonely because they haven't got the quality of contact that actually they need. So you could still be lonely in a big room of people and with all those networks. So what the local Age UK is trying to do is actually provide those activities and those networks where people can connect and feel supported. The other thing, I think, picking up on what your talk was very much, they will be able to go to these coffee mornings or networks. I'm a big fan of Men in Sheds. I don't know if Men in Sheds is fantastic. Men are particularly brilliant at not connecting and not asking the right questions. Utterly amazing at just keeping very quiet about things that are worrying them. Men in Sheds is fantastic because actually they will go, and because they're amongst other men, it might not come out straight away, but I ran one of these down in Bexley, and what we found was that one bloke turned up one day and said, oh God, had to go to my doctor and have my blood pressure checked, it's really high, and everyone's been getting at me, blah, 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 blah. What we then found was some of the other men were going to get their blood pressure checked as well, because the first one had it checked and actually was doing something off, and that gave them permission to go and have it done themselves. So the power of the networks of the local Age UK services is very strong, and the reducing social isolation, there's no magic wand. And we obviously work in partnership with many other organisations as well. But I think it's important to think of social isolation as being something, it is a problem in itself, but it is manageable. The question is about finding the safe route in and finding the best route to actually getting people connected. Yes, I know. You stole all of my presentation. No, you didn't. It was fun. No, I'm joking, but actually a lot of the stuff that was talked about earlier on, we will see every day as well. And the important thing for us is that we know that we are able to refer through to local trading standards, national trading standards, to the police. One of the things that we're doing on that is we've been doing some work with some of the housing associations. And we have a program that we're delivering to not only in London but around the country as well. We're using actresses, and we're getting focus groups of 30 or 40 older people together, and we've got a couple of actresses who will come in and they will act out a scenario, a set of scenarios. And and they're older ladies themselves. One of them's been in EastEnders several times, but that's another story. But they will act out the scenarios, and one of the things that we do find the feedback from the older people afterwards is they will look and they go, all right, so these are older people, I've been in that position, and suddenly what you're doing is you're almost opening up the permission to talk about it. So if they see that someone else is going through it, they see that someone else is talking with the same words and about the same experiences as them, suddenly there's that ability, that permission that they can put their hands up and say, do you know, I've got this problem as well. So, I mean, and the devastation that scams can cause, and you know, it was touched on earlier on. Again, the rogue traders one is one particular that we would see. You know, the £40,000 to fix a tile. There are some really nasty people out there, and I think working with the statutory authorities and the stuff that we do as well, it's vitally important. And again, the results, what we will see is you can be scammed once, and it can go on forever. But a lot of people, they'll get scammed, and everything else falls off. The health, the social contact. I mean, it destroys lives completely. So, complete awe of the work that Louisa and her team do. Falls prevention. I need to pick up something here. We've got a lady on our expert panel called Dr. Jackie Morris, who would, if she was here, she'd be throwing things at you, because she would say it's not about falls, it's about frailty. And I think falls prevention is vital, and I'm slightly joking, but it's an enormous piece of work to do. But actually, there are so many other things that cause falls that actually it's a big thing. It's a big thing in itself. Medication is a big one. The number of older people who are on the wrong medication altogether. So high blood pressure, low blood pressure can do all sorts of things to your balance. There's issues around, are you eating properly? Are you checking that? Urinary tract infections, ridiculous. Very easy to sort out, but actually they can cause the disorientation, and so falls themselves are more of a symptom of a wider problem with frailty with older people. So getting the right meds, getting the right support, getting the right handrails. I was interested in the parallel. You know, that's something that some of our local Age UKs fit the grab rails for. So we do bits and pieces of that as well. Our role at Age UK London is very much about training social care professionals. So we are going out to, we've been doing this in North London at the moment, we're hoping to roll this out. So we will go out to health and social care professionals, so care agencies, OT, occupational therapists for some reason who sometimes don't quite get some of this stuff, social workers, and we will be telling them how to spot some of the many warning signs that actually, if they can then refer through to the right person, you're just eliminating those problems that will cause falls later on. Zumba classes, local Age UKs will do loads of those. Things like Tai Chi, Otago, all of those things are happening around the local Age UKs. I think the one thing that was also picked up as well, there is no point telling older people, you must come along to this because you'll feel better for it, or it will help you in some way. That's not going to work. If you tell an 80-year-old who's been smoking since he was 15 that he needs to stop smoking for his health, forget it. It's not going to happen. If you put him in a situation where nobody else smokes but he's enjoying himself, guess what? He'll actually stop smoking or he'll cut down for the simple reason that there's a different reason for doing it. We do walks around we have a little subsidiary in the City of London around the corporation area, and we do health walks, but we don't call them health walks, we do history walks, because if you tell people there, come out and have a nice healthy walk, no, come out and see this particular historical building and get told all about it and have tea and cake afterwards, that works. So I think very much picking up on what you were saying is very much around that social element. How do you approach older people? How do you get them to the point where they can do stuff safely and comfortably? And you can have, it's not it's not doing stuff by stealth. It's not trying to get them, it's not lying to them to get them to a certain place. It is finding the right mechanism to actually engage with older people and to get them to the place where they can be safe and they can enjoy their lives. One of the things that we do at Age UK London is around influencing stakeholders. So we've recently been talking to the Met Police about safeguarding and advising them on how they approach older people. I think they're very willing. I think they have some issues around how that approach actually happens, and I think it's slightly. They think that they can solve the problem, and actually it's a multifaceted problem there. So we're assisting them with them. The Mayor's Office and Transport for London are very interesting. Since the Mayor has signed up for Age Friendly London, we are finding that a lot of people in the Mayor's Office are interested to talk to us, and that will be very much around sorting out things like transport. Transport for London, I have to say, I know there's issues. Some people have issues, and they are one of the best transport authorities in the world. There are individual issues with some stations. I know we've got problems that people have told us about, but actually comparatively, they are very good at getting involved and listening. So particularly on their accessibility side, I know there's various disabled charities that work with them that speak very highly of them. The thing is, they are open. What we have to do is actually find the older people experience, find the problems, go to them, and then say, you need to fix this. One of the big things for us is about signage. We find problems with toilets at various stations as well that older people are complaining around. The other thing to think about is TfL actually run quite a lot of different transport facilities in London, and it's the difference between if you've got to take 3 journeys, so you might have to take an overground, a bus and a tube to get to a certain place that you want to go to, and then when you've done that, you've got to turn around and come all the way back again. So how do the interchanges work? So that's very much something we're talking to TfL about. And finally, our own campaigns. We decided last year that we were going to focus a lot of our effort on, not on trying to get funding to do what funders want, but we were going to pick things that we thought were important, find the evidence base, and then campaign on them. And the 2 I would like to highlight, first of all, older private renters. We did a campaign. We did a piece of research 2 years ago called Living in Fear, which was basically around the issue of older people who were renting. And there was 2 things that came out. First of all, there was an odd feeling that if you're still renting when you're in your 70s or 80s, then you've failed, in inverted commas, because we're very much a house-owning society. That was an odd thing. If you think about it, it's logical from the older person's point of view. But the second thing, and the reason for the name of the project, was older people who are renting don't want to engage with landlords, will put up with all sorts of terrible conditions, simply because what they don't want to do is lose what is their base. So, when I was in my 20s, I was renting. If I'd have had to have moved, it would have been annoying, but I would have been able to do it. If you've got someone who has been renting for somewhere for a long time, or they've rented and it's become, in essence, their home, their solid base, what we can't have is them being afraid in that solid base. We all take our homes for granted, but there is a real issue with older private renters. They don't engage with landlords because they don't want the rent to go up. They don't want to be labelled as troublemakers, so they will put up with all sorts of things. No heating, mould, all sorts of horrible stories that we heard. And this also does fit into the safer ageing in London as well, because I think if people don't feel safe in their own homes, which is exactly what was talked about earlier, then the impact on their general well-being will fall off as well. So that's a vital one. And I've mentioned transport as well. There's one of the really annoying things that we see in Age UK is that there are some fantastic services that the local Age UKs and other charities are available. By the way, I keep banging on about Age UK, but there are other charities, particularly some of the carers charities and dementia charities, that do fantastic work. But you've got these fantastic things over here that would really help people's well-being, and you've got the older people over here. How do you get them from there to there? And that's something that we're very much going to be looking at in the next year, particularly around community transport and things like dial-a-ride and taxi card, which aren't really fit for purpose at the moment. But anyway, we're going to be working on that. So that's just a summary of what Age UK is involved in across London, why we think this is important. I am sorry that I have to disappear. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. If you do want to catch up with me on anything else, then I can be reached through Carolyn, if that's okay. But thank you very much for your time. We're really pleased to be involved in this because, as I say, if we can keep older people safe in London, then they can give back and enjoy what London has to offer. So very pleased to be part of today, and thank you very much for that. Thank you. Are there any